What's up, everybody? It's Lance here, bringing you the brand new video, and I wanted to throw my hat into the ring about this whole Apoqliphort Towers debacle, about how cards like Ultimate Falcon and Super Quantum Mech Lord Great Magnus are cards that are essentially just towers, but maybe a little bit bigger. Now, when towers got banned in 2015 in October, it was a kind of a revolution because people believed that this card was generally unhealthy for the game, and I could see why, but I kind of believed that it didn't have anything to do with towers being that strong, but it had everything to do with Scout being that strong, because Scout can search out the entire deck. Scout could search out Sacrifice if it wanted to, and it could search out basically everything inside the deck, except except Apoqliphort Scout. You can't search for himself. But regardless of that, I believe that because Cleese had such a consistency with Scout at the time, that playing towers was kind of easy, and the fact that you could search them made him that easy. But people also tend to forget that we have like 3 archetypes in the game that basically have the same clause, though it's slightly different, I would argue. And that is Cosmos, Magic Spectres, and Monarchs. Monarchs is a lot more simple. You have to have no extra decks in your. You have to have no extra deck at all, and it only prevents your opponent from doing certain things. They can't special summon monsters from the extra deck. They just can't. They can't. For the most part, this card basically does the same thing. And also, in the same realm for Cosmos, they can't be targeted, and the same thing goes for Magic Spectres. They can't be targeted, but there's a difference between being unaffected and being targeted. I know this. Being unaffected generally just means, well, you're just unaffected by cards for the most part, whereas can't be targeted. There are cards that don't target, so therefore these cards could be affected by those. But generally speaking, some people might actually think that Cosmo Dark Destroyer is far worse than Great Magnus or Raid Raptor Falcon or Ultimate Falcon, mostly because Cosmos are faster, simply. Cosmos have many ways of getting out Dark Destroyer and Forerunner, and Dark Eclipser if they decide to play that. And not to mention, we have cards like Cyber Dragon Infinity, Shooting Quasar Dragon, Beals. These cards are essentially the same thing. They're really just the same thing in a different coat of paint. Beals, for instance, can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. Now, again, there's a difference between can't be destroyed and can't be targeted and unaffected. But generally speaking, you can't Raigeki this card in the same way that you could Raigeki a Towers, or not a Towers, a Dark Destroyer. And similarly, it is kind of unaffected because, well, I mean, it just lives. Cards like these live. Cards like Marshmallow just live because, well, they can't die by battle, and this card can't die by card effects. So, another thing is that Cyber Dragon Infinity was at one point at our disposal, at everyone's disposal, because of Ptolemaeus. And Ptolemaeus, after rightfully getting banned, I feel as though this card is still considered a very powerful card, but it's nothing more than a boss monster. And that's what people need to realize, is that these cards are just essentially just big boss monsters that, well, you're just going to have to find a way to get around. And while some people might not like that fact, it's a fact nonetheless, and it's a reality that people are going to have to eventually face. Remember the time when Jug Doppel and all those Quasar decks made a thing, like Fable and Laval's and all that stuff? Well, I mean, Shooting Quasar is kind of one of the very first cards that say, well, if I'm played, you pretty much just win. And if you don't win by that time, and I happen to die, I can replace myself. These cards honestly don't have that flexibility, and for the most part, I would argue that they're a lot easier to get over than something like Quasar, because Quasar could be like, no. So, anyway, there are also 2 main ways that people can stop these cards, But I don't even think that they're worth stopping, considering that I don't believe that they're going to be very relevant in the near future. Anyway, sure, Super Quantums did win that ERG, but I mean it's really not that relevant when they haven't done anything since then or before that. So I honestly believe that that point is a little bit mute. But regardless of that, I believe that Kaiju's and Solemn Notice or Solemn Strike, excuse me, are very good competitive outs to these kinds of cards. And I would argue that these cards are probably better than most situations in most situations regardless. So people are probably already playing these cards. I know people are side decking Gamma Seal, and people are playing Solemn Notices or Strikes. I mean, this Japanese name needs to get out of here, but whatever. But still, I believe that these cards like this are kind of a mainstay in the game, simply because they add a bit more skill. They add a bit more skill to the game. Well, there's this giant big boss monster. How am I going to get around it? Do I have the resources to get around it? And if I don't, do I lose? Because that's simply the case. So, anyway, guys, I just want to make this video perfectly clear that I believe that these cards are just kind of necessary evils for the game. They kind of add a bit more skill into the game, and they're not. And I believe that Konami honestly makes these cards specifically in not very good archetypes. Super Quantums aren't that good. Raid Raptors aren't that good at the moment. So I believe that it's fine to give these decks a bit more brokenness, or a bit more unfairness into them, because otherwise they're just not going to make anything of themselves. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about this whole topic, and I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Lance, and I am signing out.